TB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
And the field turns for home. Buffum, Coyle, and Gruppedal across the track. Stay Thirsty just in behind Gruppedal. Coming into the final furlong, it's Coyle doing battle with Gruppedal. Those two head-to-head for the lead. Stay Thirsty is coming at them from the outside, and the filly's in front. The filly Gruppedal trying to hold off. Stay Thirsty, Gruppedal, and Stay Thirsty. A thrilling finish. Photo finish. Gruppedal and Stay Thirsty. A head-bobbing finish that was too close to call here. Coyle was third in the Cigar Mile.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. I'm Mark Asano. On this morning's show, we'll take a look back at yesterday's Clark Handicap from Churchill Downs, and we will welcome in four very special guests on this very big day of racing. Shug McGaughey. Then we'll go to Kentucky and we'll welcome in Mr. Pat Byrne. Back to New York for Buff Bradley and Karen McLaughlin. So all of that and much, much more if you stay with us for this, our November 30th edition of the program, which is being sponsored by Embrace the Race, the apparel for the horse racing lifestyle. Available at the Museum of Racing, at their new store at 12 Circular Street in Saratoga, and online at embracetherace.com. Good morning once again. Hope you had a very nice Thanksgiving. We've got an early start to our show today because of the early first post at Aqueduct. That very fine card of racing begins at 12 noon. But we are going to begin this morning's show by looking back at Friday's Clark Handicap from Churchill Downs, and a somewhat unusual post-Breeders' Cup race with Eclipse Award ramifications. Number one, Game On Dude, whose ninth place finish in the Classic probably cost him any chance at Horse of the Year, but a winning effort in here could garner him some votes for Champion Older Male. He was the favorite. The second choice, number 7, Will Take Charge, the 3-year-old who ran so big in finishing second in the Classic, a winner of just a single Grade 1 race going in, the Travers. A win in here would go a long way at making him a champion, and that's exactly what happened. Displaying his, at least recent, usual and remarkable late surge, Will Take Charge edged Game On Dude by a head to capture the Clark. Just as he showed in his Travers victory and his very close runner-up finish in the Classic, Will Take Charge waited until just yards before the wire to kick it into another gear to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Following a far better than it looks on paper 8th in the Kentucky Derby, Will Take Charge was terrible in both the Preakness and the Belmont, finishing 7th and 10th, but after a brief freshening and the removal of blinkers, the Wayne Lukas trainee had an outstanding second half of the year with 3 wins and 2 close seconds. I think he is now the very solid choice to be named champion 3-year-old. As far as Game On Dude, who is trying to last here the last 100 yards, following 5 straight victories to open the year, several by open lengths, Game On Dude lost his second straight in the Clark. He is a very good racehorse, but one has every right to question the competition he had been facing this year out in California. His chance to win an Eclipse for Older Male really, in my opinion, took a major hit with this loss. Easter Gift finished a reasonably close third, beaten just over 2 lengths. I'm not sure what that means. A minute 49.39 was only a half second faster than entry-level allowance horses ran in the third race. Now, the track could have changed in that time. It could have slowed down. I don't know. I don't know how good this effort was, but it was a huge victory for Will Take Charge. The big question coming out of the Clark, will Take Charge return next year for a 4-year-old campaign, or will the lure of a stallion career cause owner Willis Horton to retire him? That decision is going to be made very soon, and let's hope he comes back next year, because really from the middle of summer, you could tell this is a big colt. And Wayne Lukas said it all along. He's going to be better as a 4-year-old. Well, he's only going to be better as a 4-year-old if he comes back to the races. Couple of quick news stories. A movie is being made on Mine That Bird, who shocked the racing world by capturing the 2009 Kentucky Derby. Named 50-1, the movie, which will include Calvin Borel, is scheduled to be released March 21st of next year. And believe you can, the heroine of the 2012 Kentucky Oaks has been retired. Originally scheduled to compete in the Thanksgiving Day Falls City at Churchill, she was retired instead. Believe you can retired with earnings of $1.28 million. The Falls City was won by Wine Princess in what was her final career start. And we are up to our first break on this morning's November 30th edition of the program. Thank you so much for having joined us. When we return, we will welcome in Mr. Shug McGahee. As we go to the break, the Delta Jackpot, $1 million. Number 2 Coastline is the 8-5 favorite. Please pay particularly close attention at the break to number 2 Coastline. The second choice at 2-1, number 10 Rise Up. So we will take a look at the Delta Jackpot to the break. Back with Shug McGahee right after these messages.
And they're off in the $1 million Delta Downs jackpot, and it was not a good start for Coastline, who trails the field early. Mighty Brown came away fast and goes to the lead. Rise Up is on the outside. To the inside, it's Roman Unbridled, and behind rivals, you'll find Rum Point and Casiguapo. Big Bazinga's way on the outside. The back group early on is Why Are You Awesome, followed here by Flat Gone. Then comes Rank Has Privileges, and Coastline is the trailer about 10 lengths from the front as Rise Up now takes the lead with 1 lap to go. It's Gerard Malone and Rise Up leading affairs. Mighty Brown is right behind the leader, and then comes Rum Point, who's between rivals. On the outside, that's Casiguapo. Tucked in at the rail is Roman Unbridled. Then comes Big Bazinga within about 4 lengths of the lead after the quarter went in 22.82. It's Why Are You Awesome back in the field. Then Coastline now out of the trailer spot. Next to him out there is Rank Has Privileges, and now the trailer is Flat Gone. The half mile in 46 and 3100ths. Rise Up trying to nurse it on the lead. To the outside, it's Casiguapo getting a little bit closer. Big Bazinga's in with a chance, about 3 off the rail. Mighty Brown is tucked in down on the inside. Backing up a bit is Rum Point. Here comes Rank Has Privileges and Coastline. They're both coming after the leaders after 3 quarters, went in 1:11.94. Rise Up looks to have plenty left. Gerard Malone is sitting chilly, but here comes Rank Has Privileges. Mighty Brown is under a drive on the inside. Then Casiguapo. Big Bazinga has checked out. Coastline is back from there, but it's Rise Up who has the lead. Rise Up went 3 quarters, 1:11.94. He's coming to the 16th pole. It's Gerard Malone and Rise Up. Air up the tires, gas up the tank. He's on the road to the Derby. It's Rise Up in the $1 million Delta Downs jackpot. Casiguapo was second, third went to Rank Has Privileges, and fourth was Roman Unbridled.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Embrace the tradition. Embrace the passion. embrace the race. Apparel for the horse racing lifestyle.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano, and rise up for Tom Amoss and Gerard Melancon by 6 lengths over Kasi Guapo, and Rank has privileges to win the Delta Jackpot. Coastline, as you saw, stumbled very badly at the break, ended up 8th. Our first guest this morning has a very exciting 2-year-old in Honor Code who will start later this afternoon in the Remsen. We welcome live via telephone from New York, Mr. Shug McGaughey. Shug, Mark Asano welcoming you back to the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Always nice to have you, Shug. But before we get to Honor Code, let's begin with your Derby winner, Orb. Shug, why was he retired?
Well, to answer that, I'm not really sure. He was sound and training well, Mark. I think they just felt like that it was the right time. I mean, the best way I can see is there was a lot of people interested in him, and so it just came down to where they thought it was the right time to do something, and that's what we did.
He gave you one of your greatest moments professionally back on the first Saturday in May. Wasn't nearly as brilliant since. Shug, how frustrating was the rest of the year with Orb?
Well, I think that the Preakness, when we grew the inside, we got hung down in there on a kind of a deep, cuppy track with no pace. That hurt us. And then, obviously, in the Belmont, he just got way too far out of it. I thought he came back and ran a good race in the Travers. I don't think he was the best set on the inside. I think when he got up to Marino, he just sort of ran with him instead of kind of going on. And then I can't explain the Jockey Club Gold Cup, so I'm not even going to go there. I've got no idea why he didn't run any better. I mean, he came back and trained great after that, and he looked great and was doing great. So I don't know. I can't. I can't really answer that question. But I'm disappointed that we weren't able to win more races with him after the Derby than we did.
Shug, in the Breeders' Cup, you brought Point of Entry back off surgery and a lengthy layoff to finish a very respectable 4th in the Turf. But it's my guess, and it's only my guess, that you were expecting more from him.
No, it's not a guess. I was disappointed. I think it hurt us quite a bit when Johnny got hurt because he'd ridden him so much and he knew him. I think he would have probably had him up in the race a little bit more. Joel rode a good race on him. I'm not saying that. He said he was a little bit lazy the first part of it. That could have been, from coming off such a long layoff. But, no, I went in there with the idea that we wanted to win. I was disappointed we didn't win.
All right, we are 154 days away from the 2014 Kentucky Derby. We're now going to chat about your very exciting 2-year-old Honor Code. For our audience, here he is in his last start. This is the Champagne. Honor Code is number 5. Going to come from far, far back to get beat just a neck by Havana. Shug, talk about this effort, if you would.
Well, I thought he ran good, coming off one race. He did. I didn't think he got far back as he did when he ran in his maiden race. He ran pretty fast. We wanted to save ground around the turn, and Javier said when they straightened out there, it looked like some of the horses were coming back, and he didn't want to get stopped, so he went to the outside. And so Leaf had sort of the same idea, and when we made our move, so Leaf made his move on the horse that was third, and that carried us even farther out in the racetrack, and we just came up a head or a neck short. I thought he ran a good race, and it's not that easy to close from that far back going a mile, a one-turn mile here at Belmont. So I thought it was a good race. Savannah had kind of had the right kind of trip and got a couple lengths in front at the 8th pole, and we just weren't able to catch it.
You felt as though he made the move forward from his maiden race to this race, even though he got beat, you were pleased with that move forward he made?
Yeah, I thought he ran. Yes, I was. I thought to go from a maiden race where he, was relatively green, and to be able to come back in a Champaign with a pretty accomplished bunch in there, and the hopeful winner, and Havana was a kind of the now horse, and to run that good, I thought was fine. So I thought he was going in the. I think he was going in the right direction.
It was pretty quickly after the Champaign that you announced Honor Code would not ship to Santa Anita for the Breeders' Cup. And let's face it, Shug, he probably would have been favored in there to not only win the juvenile, but to be named champion. Talk about why the decision not to send him west.
Well, I don't think it was ever really in the books, Mark. I talking with Mr. Parrish, we just didn't feel like that. It could have been different if he'd have won, but that we wanted to ship a relatively inexperienced young horse all the way to the West Coast to run over, what was usually a speed favoring track, and it was very speed favoring the day before, and they did get it kind of straightened out, for the big day. But our biggest thing was we wanted a nice colt for as a 3-year-old, and we felt like the best thing to do was just to sit back and wait on this 2-turn race here and not have to ship him all the way out there, and kind of play at the conservative route and hopefully be able to, have a nice colt for next year.
Speaking of the 2 turns, how do you think that will suit him? Do you think it will affect his running style at all? Might we expect him to be a bit closer to the pace today than we've seen in either of his first 2 races?
Mark, you would think so. I guess it depends on how fast they go, but I wouldn't think they'd be going too fast. There's a couple of speed horses horses have shown some speed in there, but not brilliant by any means. And, so hopefully, he breaks good. It's just a matter of it takes him a little while to get himself going. And hopefully going around 2 turns, especially if we don't get much pace, that he'll be placed in a race in good shape. I think we got a good post to get around the first turn the right way. So, we'll see this afternoon, but I think he'll place himself better. I think that, also Javier has ridden him one time now, and, I think he'll probably understand him a little bit better than, even though I rode him great in the Champaign, but he'll, anytime they ride him the second time, I think that he'll know him that much better.
He's had 5 works since the Champaign. How's he been training? How's he coming up to this afternoon's Remsen?
I think he's doing good. He's had some strong gallops in between those works. I know it's a bit of a funny pattern, but last Sunday it was 18 or 19 degrees here, and the wind blowing 30, 40 miles an hour, so the track was sort of deep and cuppy, and but he went off in 26, so he went the last he went the last 3/8 and 36, and I caught him galloping out the next 8 and 12 and change, and he did that when that 103 down there. He went off and went off too slow. He went off in 27, finished up in 36, went on and galloped out. And all the works he's galloped out, a long ways. It just hadn't been. He's gone 5/8 or a half and pulled himself up. He's had strong gallop out. So I don't think fitness should be a problem.
Have you thought about some of the early season 3-year-old races at Gulfstream you'll look at?
Well, I haven't. I know where they are. I want to get through today, and then after today, we'll ship him to Payson Park, and as he see how it comes out of it, and I'll put my head together with Mr. Parrish, and he can put his heads together with the other people that are involved, and we'll come up with a game plan. We'll pencil in a game plan, as you say, but so we'll come up with something. And, I think obviously the races in Florida are the ones we would probably most likely look at, so that's where we're going to be. And but there's some good preps, whether it be at Tampa or New Orleans also. But I'm going to say Gulfstream's going to be at the top of our list.
And it's really interesting, Shug, because, late last year and early this year, Orb thrived in South Florida, and despite his come-from-behind running style, ran exceptionally well at Gulfstream. But with Honor Code, at least in his first 2 races, coming from the clouds, that's not a running style that normally is terribly conducive to Gulfstream.
Well, you're exactly right. That's one of the things that I'll be watching, and that's one of the things I'm going to watch today is to see how he places himself going around 2 turns, going a mile and 1/8. I mean, the first one down there is going, the Fountain of Youth going a mile and 1/16. So I'll just have to sort of take a look and see how he does today and how the racetrack's playing down there, and make up my mind from there.
Well, Shug, as always, we appreciate your time very much. Thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch, and all the best later this afternoon with Honor Code and the Remsen.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Shug. Shug McGahee, ladies and gentlemen. And it is going to be fascinating. As Shug said, he's got to get through the Remsen, come out of it well. But, when you think about it, one of the reasons I liked Orb so much in the Derby last year is because he overcame, and I think that's a proper word, his running style compared to Gulfstream Park. Well, Orb would race certainly a lot closer to the pace than Honor Code has done in either of his first 2 starts. And as I said to Shug, it's obvious, Gulfstream not terribly conducive normally to horses coming from another zip code. So we're going to have to see how he handles that this winter. And we are up to our next break. When we return, it's off to Kentucky, where we'll welcome Mr. Pat Byrne. As we go to the break, more 2-year-olds in the Real Quiet at Hollywood. 6-5 favorite coming off a maiden sprint win, number 3 Green Mask. 2.5 to 1 second choice, number 6 Tamorando, who was up against a very strong track bias the Friday of Breeders' Cup weekend at Santa Anita. So we'll take a look at a piece of the Real Quiet to the break, and we'll be back with Pat Byrne right after these messages.
Karma King to the backstretch, leads by 1.5 lengths to Life is a Joy in second. Green Mask is a tugging third, and he's about 2.5 or 3 from the front. Better Bet and Electric Eddie, 4th and 5th with 5 lengths to make up. Beach Hut has 6 lengths to close. Then it's 3.5 back to the 2 trailers, Tamorando and Mr. Splash, as they run up the backstretch in the 8th. Real Quiet Stakes 2-year-olds with 5 furlongs to run, and Karma King is the leader. Karma King 2 lengths in front of Life is a Joy in second. Green Mask continues to travel third. He's about 3 off the lead. Here's Green Mask to tug Kent DeSormo up into a joint second now, and he's after Karma King. Green Mask takes second, 1.5 lengths from the front. Better Bet will be 3 wide. Beach Hut and Electric Eddie are 3 from the front. Here's Electric Eddie to move through at the rail and take third. Tamorando has 6 lengths to make up. Mr. Splash has dropped out last midway on the far turn. Karma King continues to lead. Green Mask has every chance to outfinish him. They're 1/4 mile from home. The whip is out on Beach Hut. Electric Eddie has a run. He needs a way through. Life is a Joy. Tamorando closing in the center of the racetrack, and you better take a look at Tamorando. Karma King, Green Mask, and an on-rushing Tamorando. And Tamorando has run right by to take over the lead. Karma King, Green Mask, and Electric Eddie battle for minor awards as Tamorando runs away and wins the Real Quiet. Tamorando scored by 2 3/4 over Electric Eddie. Karma King was third, and Green Mask finished 4th.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. My thanks to Shug McGahee once again for having joined us, and Tamorando for Jerry Hollendorfer and Rafael Bejarano. by 3 1/4 over the maiden Electric Eddie and Karma King to win the Real Quiet. Our next guest has the colt to beat and the one to catch in today's Kentucky Jockey Club. That colt is almost famous. His trainer, Mr. Pat Byrne. Pat, Mark Casano welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
Good morning, Mark. Good to be on the show.
Well, nice to have you as always. Pat, almost famous, looked good, breaking his maiden in his debut. Talk to us about his early training. Did you know from pretty early on you had a special colt?
Well, we liked him, obviously. Mrs. Stanford gave $500,000 from him in the 2-year-old training style, so we obviously liked him to put up that kind of money. He's a grand-looking son of Unbridled Song, and he's got a good disposition, good way of going, and so he had all the attributes that would make you want to step up and, spend that kind of money. So we've always been high on him, to say the least, and we were thrilled with his first performance, and obviously disappointed and somewhat dismayed with his second race, but it seems like we got him back on track with some blinkers for his third start.
Let's talk about that second start for just a moment. Minor stakes race, showed speed and finished a badly beaten fourth. Was there a legitimate excuse? What happened that day, Pat?
I just think he lost focus. I mean, I really do. He came out the mile chute, which, there's no excuse for it. It's just one of those toss-out races. He's obviously a better colt than that. Than what he showed that day. I really believe that it was not a talent issue, and I just believe he just lost focus. And we just one of those situations where you get back in a huddle Monday morning and regroup.
You mentioned earlier he's a grand-looking colt. In a moment, we're going to have a shot of him on the screen. For our audience, take a moment to describe him physically, if you would.
Well, he's a big colt. He's big for a 2-year-old. He's 16.3. He's going to be 17 hands here, probably early in his 3-year-old year. He's got the width and depth to go along with it. He's got really good bone on him, and he's a well-balanced colt, and he's obviously athletic. So, like I said earlier, Mark, he's got all the attributes to be a good colt, top colt.
And his dam, Pat, Wild Gam, she won like $1.2 million sprinting. She was a terrific sprinter. You think that's where he gets his natural speed from?
You'd like to think so. I think Forest Wildcat is a very good broodmare sire. And I think that obviously the Unbridled Songs have natural speed themselves. The question mark is how far will he carry that speed? I have not seen any limitations to it yet. I mean, obviously we won a mile and a 16th and a decent time, going 2 turns in his last race. So, the jocks that have been on him seems to feel like he has, who knows? When we talk about the Kentucky Derby, nobody knows if you're actually going to go 1.25 miles because we just haven't had the opportunity to do so. So, until Derby Day, who knows how far he will go. But I believe, and some of the professionals that have been around him believe that distance is not really a limitation for him.
Well, we're about to take a look at his last start. For our audience, he is number 1 in this November 9th entry-level allowance at Churchill. Pat, talk about this effort, if you would.
Well, he just redeemed everybody's thoughts, what we had, that we thought about him. And, it was a quick turnaround, 2 weeks. I didn't have a problem with that personally because I thought it was a non-effort in the street sense race. So I just was hoping that he'd step up and show us what he was capable of doing, and he did that. So we were obviously pleased and delighted with it moving forward.
Now, the blinkers you put on him this day, I assume you felt it helped him focus that much better.
Absolutely. I mean, we obviously schooled him with the blinkers. We broke him out of the gate prior to that third start, and we saw what we wanted to see. We just wanted to see some focus, and we weren't necessarily trying to put any speed into him. It's just that it's all about focusing. And, he's just a big green baby still, and they're entitled to make mistakes, and that's what happened.
And I apologize for our audience. He is number 2 in front. He had broken from the inside post. Patty's been in front early in all of his races. Is that because of circumstance, or is that his running style right now?
I think circumstance and he's just got a big stride on him. He just kind of eats the ground up, and I just think from a athletic and ability standpoint, he just seems to be right there. I've never tried to put him on the lead or try to make him a gate to wire type horse. He's just done that off his own ability, and that's where we seem to be right now.
Well, you've drawn the rail again this afternoon, and with that quick run to the first turn, would you expect him to be in front again this afternoon?
As far as my riding orders to Corey Lanerie, who obviously is riding brilliant right now at Churchill, he's a leading jock there. I just tell him a little bit how the horse is doing, and he came back, he worked him the other day a little bit, so he knows he's doing real well. And once he's on the lead, he's on the lead. If he's sitting second or third, that's fine too. There is a little bit of other speed in the race. Not great speed, but if they decide they want to try to go to the front, Corey will have every option to just let the other horse go.
Pat, how's he been training up to this afternoon's Kentucky Jockey Club?
He's doing well. He's actually put a little weight on since he ran, and so I couldn't be any happier with him.
Now, I know trainers don't like to look past the task at hand, but we need to know from you, when you take him to Florida this winter, have you thought about when and in which race he'll start his 3-year-old campaign?
We haven't got that far, to be honest with you. We'd like to get the dad out of the way and then go from there. These horses tell you what they're capable of every time they run, and it's easy to get caught up with Derby fever on that, and we'd certainly love to be in the starting gate Derby day with him. But it's how they progress through the winter, and I think being down at Palmettos gives a young horse a good opportunity to develop. I've always believed in, having good horses in a nice warm climate. They just seem to do better than being stuck in the cold somewhere. So with that being said, well, obviously we're running at Gulfstream, but I'll have several other nice 2-year-olds, so we'll see, what fits. I mean, we might point to the Florida Derby. Will we go that route? Too far out to tell. But I always felt like my third race in the year should be the Kentucky Derby, meaning 2 races somewhere and then the Derby. So I look for a 2 race. Again, obviously, fingers crossed in the perfect world, everything being, dandy and all that stuff, we'd look for 2 races, and then if we're fortunate enough to get the Derby, we'll do that.
Well, Pat, as always, thank you so very much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. We appreciate your time. All the best with Almost Famous later this afternoon in the Kentucky Jockey Club. And I have a feeling we'll be chatting with you from sunny and warm South Florida over the winter.
Oh, I look forward to the opportunity. Thanks so much for having us on the show.
Thank you, Pat. Pat Byrne, ladies and gentlemen. And we are up to our next break. When we return back to New York, we'll welcome Mr. Buff Bradley. As we go to the break, the Fall High Weight Thanksgiving at Aqueduct. 2-1 favorite, number 7, Sage Valley. 2.5-1 second choice, number 5, Palace. So we'll take a look at the Fall High Weight to the break. Back with Buff Bradley right after these messages.
And they're off. The Lumber Guy breaks on top, and Jake and Elwood down toward the inside. Bishani up in between horses, running in third now. Strapping Groom on the pace. And fourth, Palace a little bit tight, fifth toward the inside. In the clear on the outside, Sage Valley. Then a break of another 5 back to Kaisha Electronica, who has about 11 lengths to make up now, about to be passed by Saturday's Charm. Opening quarter mile, 22 1/5 seconds over the off-going here. And the leader is Longshot Jake and Elwood. Strapping Groom and the Lumber Guy right there in the mix on the outside with less than 3 furlongs to go. Sage Valley now hitting his best stride. Called on for run as they approach the quarter pole. Palace is only 3 lengths from the lead now. And then Bishani, who's tailed off. The field turns for home. 45 2 was the half mile here. Strapping Groom, the Lumber Guy, Jake and Elwood, now third furlong to go. Palace on the far outside, Sage Valley inside the final furlong. And it's Strapping Groom drifting out just a bit. Here's Palace on the outside. Palace and Strapping Groom coming down to the line. And Palace has won the Fall High Weight. Strapping Groom was second, and the Lumber Guy was third. Kaisha Electronica came on for fourth.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. My thanks to Pat Byrne once again for having joined us, and Palace for Linda Rice and Cornelio by an expanding length and a half over a pair of Grade 1 winners, Strapping Groom and the Lumber Guy to win the fall high weight. Claimed by Linda 13 months ago for just $20,000, Palace is now a graded stakes winner. Our next guest, we had him on the week before the Breeders' Cup to discuss Groupie Doll. And I thought that would be the last time we ever had him on as the trainer of Groupie Doll. Well, I am thrilled that I was wrong. We welcome back, still the trainer of Groupie Doll, live from New York, Mr. Buff Bradley. Buff, Mark Asano welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
Thank you, Mark, and I'm very grateful you were wrong.
Okay, Buff. Groupie Doll sold at Keeneland for $3.1 million as a broodmare prospect. Here we are about 3 weeks later, and she's getting ready to run in the Cigar Mile. What happened?
Well, immediately following the sale, Mandy Pope was surrounded by the press, so I let her talk to them first, and then myself and our consignor, Tom Evans from Trackside Farm, went over and introduced ourselves, and I gave her a card, and I said, anything you need to know about this mare? I said, I've been with her since day one. I said, I'd be glad to give you any advice that I have on her, and so the transition goes well. And also stated, I said, if you ever thought about going to the Cigar Mile, I said, I'd love to train her. And probably a little while later, she had called me. She was at the barn looking at her new purchase. And so I went back there, and we sat down together and talked. And she said, what would you really do with her if you still owned her? I said, well, she looks like she came out of the Breeders' Cup well. I had not tracked her. I said, but I would like to, I would have probably liked to have seen how she was. And if she came out good and still had that fire, then I would probably take a crack at the Cigar Mile, knowing that it would be a $1 million race for us. And so she just wanted to know what I really thought I would do with her before I bred her next year. So that was my suggestion, and kind of left it at that. Later, she called me and she said, well, I think we might do it, but she's going to need to go on and get up to New York immediately. And at that time, I called. She suggested that I take my groom and my rider, so I called both Matt, the groom, Matt Hebert, and Jada Schlink, the exercise rider, and I said, y'all want to go to New York? And they were thrilled. So it was great to be able to bring this great mare up here and try her once again in a very, very big competitive race.
Well, Buff, I want to take you and the audience back for a moment to the Breeders' Cup. Groupie Doll loading in the gate. She is number 11 in defense of her filly and mare sprint title. Buff, talk about this effort, if you would.
Well, when she broke well, but then I saw her getting Rajiv up into the race a little earlier, which was good. I said, well, she's on the bit, and we were always saying, easy, Rajiv. And, really, when she turned for home, through the turn, she looked really well, and turning for home, we felt very good about the chances then, and it didn't matter who was running at her. She's going to be tough to get by because she doesn't stop.
Buff, in 2012, Groupie Doll was fully expected that she was going to win the filly and mare sprint. But this year, coming off 2 losses in her last 3 starts, it was much more questionable. In that sense, was it even more gratifying for you to have her win it this year?
Well, I think we are very proud for the accomplishment of winning back-to-back. I know it has to be pretty hard, and we just have a great race mare. And for her to do the things she did, and in the races that she lost this year, she didn't run a bad race, and I don't think everything was favorable for when she did it. And horses get beat, when that's why they load them in the gate. And I think she ran 2 credible races when she got beat. It was, you don't feel so good about it immediately following, but I'm telling you, before she cooled out, I thought of all the positives of both of her losses and knew that we could move forward off of them and knew that the Breeders' Cup was our ultimate goal.
Buff, how did she come out of the Breeders' Cup and the sale at Keeneland for that matter, and how's she been training up to this afternoon's Cigar Mile?
Well, when we walked out of the test barn from the Breeders' Cup, she looked over at the racetrack and the mountains in the background, and she just jumped up and bucked, and I was like, oh, man, she came out of it good. It's too bad we're not going to be able to run her in the Cigar Mile. That's it. Too bad she's going to go through the cell because she's feeling so good. And, so I felt really good at that. And then, probably as soon as she went through the cell ring, she got back to her stall, she got down the road, got up, and just bucking and jumping in there, and I thought we hadn't even put the tack on her yet, but from the Breeders' Cup. So we were able to get up here, and she's trained beautifully over Belmont's training track and just really taken a good hold and has enjoyed it up here, really.
Buff, this is the toughest race she's ever been in. Is she
Absolutely.
Is she up to the challenge?
I believe she is. I really do. She's because I think she's not been better. I think this is a very, very deep race, and I'm not going around saying, hey, we're going to win this race. It's going to be a good race, and it's going to be, I feel like that we have as good a chance as anybody, and I'm very confident in her. But I know how things go, and with good horses, this field's very, very deep. And got to get a good trip and good ride all the way around, and, she's very capable of winning it, though.
Buff, what are the plans at present? Will she race again, or will the Cigar Mile be her final race?
Well, I've talked to Mandy about that. We're not really sure yet. We haven't really looked beyond the Cigar Mile. So we're just kind of playing it by ear and seeing if there's anything after that. We just want to see what we can do here and go from that. I do know that she wants to breed her this next year. She'll be 6, so that means she'll be 7 before she could have her first foal. So, we know that, it's going to, this is probably the time to be breeding her this next year. But, I wouldn't count out anything yet. We'll just see how this race goes.
Well, Buff, we certainly wish you all the best later this afternoon in the Cigar Mile with Groupie Doll, and we hope that there's one more time down the road when we can introduce you once again as the trainer of Groupie Doll. Buff, all congratulations on a great job, and best of luck later this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Buff Bradley, ladies and gentlemen, the trainer of the great Groupie Doll, and we are up to our final break. When we return, Mr. Kieran McLaughlin will join us as we go to the break, the fabulous strike Thanksgiving Eve at Penn National, where last week 3 trainers and a clocker were indicted by a federal grand jury on fraud charges. And when the feds get involved, you know it's very serious. In the fabulous strike, number 7 Rebo Bobo was the 4-5 favorite. So we will take a look at the fabulous strike to the break. Back with Kieran McLaughlin right after these messages.
They're off in the fabulous strike handicap. Ribbo Bobo came away sharply, Filled with Wonder shows speed. Then along the inside, here's Ben's Cat close tonight. Ribbo Bobo has it by just over a length. Filled with Wonder is second. Ben's Cat a close third inside. The far outside City of Weston is fourth. Moonstruck Cowboy races fifth. In between horses then, it's back 40. Then about 6.5 lengths to Good Morning Diva trailing. Opening quarter, 22-1. They race to the far turn. Ribbo Bobo holds it by a little more than a length. Ben's Cat is now laying second. To the outside, Filled with Wonder races third. 2 lengths to back 44th. City of Weston is next. Then comes Moonstruck Cowboy, trying to run on then Good Morning Diva as they move to the top of the lane. The half 44-4, and they straighten here in the Fabulous Strike. Ribbo Bobo leads it, but Ben's Cat's going to challenge the outside. The two principals will battle here in the final furlong. Ribbo Bobo has it ahead, but Ben's Cat and Julian Pimentel have collared him with a 16th to go. Last year's champion, Ben's Cat. This is a racehorse. Ben's Cat to repeat in the Fabulous Strike. Ribbo Bobo was second. Along for third was Good Morning Diva. Checking in fourth, back 40.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. My thanks to Buff Bradley once again for having joined us, and Ben's Cat for King Leatherberry and Julian Pimentel by a half length over Ribbo Bobo to win the Fabulous Strike. Ben's Cat is now a 7-year-old. He has won 19 stakes races during his wonderful career. Our final guest this morning will have a busy and very exciting afternoon at Aqueduct with a trio of stake starters headed by Cairo Prince in the Remsen. We welcome in live via telephone from New York, Mr. Kieran McLaughlin. Kieran, Mark Asano welcoming you back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Always nice to have you, Kieran. Let's begin with Cairo Prince, and in a moment, our audience is going to take a look at a piece of his debut back on October 6th. As we pick it up, he is number 5. He is second between horses. Kieran, talk to us about how he trained early on.
He's always trained very well. He's done everything right. Always has shown a lot of ability, talent, and intelligence. He's very smart horse, does everything right. So it was an impressive first time out winner, but we expected him to run well.
And did you expect him to be this precocious enough to win first time out?
No, we weren't sure about that. In the distance, 6 furlongs, we thought he might want a little further, but he did it impressively. We were a little worried more about Todd Pletcher, who finished second on the day, and he was a big favorite. So we were concerned, but yet we knew we had a good horse. He's done everything right.
In a moment, we are going to have a shot of him on our screen. Please take a moment to describe him from a physical standpoint for our audience.
He's a longer body, taller, longer legs than most. I mean, he definitely wants the distance and not a sprinter type. He's longer, taller, and stands over ground. So he wants to go further. Whether or not it's a mile and an eighth today or not against this tough group, we don't know. But we think he does want the mile and an eighth today, and he's doing great. Honor Code's a main threat, but we love our chances.
It's really interesting, Kieran. You talk about him as not really being a sprinter. His dam was a sprinter. 2 of the 3 siblings he's had to race were sprinters, but you feel he's going to be better going a distance of ground?
Yes, for sure. Just his body type and the way he looks and the way he trains and the way he ran last time,
we definitely feel like maybe it's the Pioneer of the Nile side of it, but he definitely wants further.
Well, off that maiden victory in his debut, you sent him to the Nashua, For our audience, he is number 12 in here. Kieran, talk about this very good-looking 2.5 length win.
He's on the outside in the clear, which is nice. He didn't get any dirt in his face. And, you know, he was going down the backside nice, and then when he went around the turn, he opened up 5 or 6 lengths and, you know, flew to the lead and went toward the rail there and was well clear. And a couple horses got a little jammed up, might have gotten a little trouble behind us, but we were not involved in that, and he kind of eased him up a little bit late. Not obvious to the eye, but he felt like he had more horse to win by 2.5 lengths. And it was an excellent effort, and, you know, we didn't know how he's going to face the kickback or the dirt, and here we draw 9 of 9. So, you know, it's very interesting. He won't have to face the dirt again or the kickback. So we have to face it at some point going forward, but we're happy to keep him in a clean face, you know, during this race also.
Well, what was so impressive to me in here, and let's face it, this is only his second career start, is our audience is about to see it here. He's going to break this race open, as you mentioned earlier, around the turn with some very quick, solid acceleration.
Yes, it was very impressive for him to open up like that and draw clear briefly. You know, I mean, he went 5, 6, 7 lengths in front, and then eased down to win by 2.5. But he's a special horse, and Paul Braverman, part of the ownership, he had asked me in the paddock the first day we ran him. He said, "Do you have any Kentucky Derby horses?" And I said, "Well, I hope so. You know, we have quite a few for Chadwell and Darley. You never know, but we hope we have a few." And he said, "Who's your best 2-year-old?" I said, "You're looking at him right now. You own part of him." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yes, he has trained the best." So we hope there's others to come, but right now, today, he's definitely our best 2-year-old.
Well, he obviously has natural speed, and as you mentioned, you've drawn the extreme outside post today. Normally, not the ideal place, going 9 furlongs with that short run to the first turn. I assume we can expect to see him running out of there this afternoon.
Yeah, you know, we have Louis Saez, who won the Clark yesterday. He's in good form. He's been riding well for us. We'll leave a lot of it up to him, and we want to get over, but he might break and be close to the lead, on or near the lead, so he won't get kicked back again, and hopefully he won't get hung too wide. So we're happy to be out there, no problem.
All right, you will be represented in the Demoiselle with Penwith, and here she is for our audience in front, en route to her maiden victory back on October 27th. Karen, tell us about Penwith.
She's always trained well. She needed her first start, but it was a tough first start. They went 9-2, 9-1. It was a fast race, and we came out of it great. We always thought she wanted further, so she broke like a bullet. You know, it says she stumbled or bobbled a little tiny bit at the start, but she was in front quickly, and I think the one got lucky, didn't break well, Todd, and she might be tough today on us if she breaks better. But Penwith got the lead, opened up a few lengths, and just kept going and won just by a length, but she was game and found more when she needed to.
Her Damn Composure was a very good runner, and a couple of her siblings have had success going long. How do you think she'll be stretching out?
She should be. She should like it, and we think that, you know, she'll run very well. Obviously, the Stop Charging Maria on the outside will be forward to place with us, and hopefully we don't go too fast early and not have anything left at the finish. But we think she will run well, and hopefully things go well for her.
And finally, you've got Wedding Toast in this afternoon's Conley. Here she is in last, winning the Belle Cherie. For our audience, as we pick it up, she is number 5, third on the outside. Karen, you have taken the same route with her as you did with Dance Card last year. She finished second in her debut. She broke her maiden. She won an entry-level allowance, and she won the Belle Cherie. That's exactly what Dance Card did a year ago. I assume that's not a coincidence?
No, it worked out well. That was with the races and the timing for hers to, be spaced out properly. The only difference is this is a tougher grade 3 maybe than last year's grade 1 Gazelle was for Dance Card. But when you make it 400,000, you're going to attract some good ones. But she's doing great. She's a very nice filly. We anticipate her running very well, and hopefully everything goes well for us.
Off a huge allowance victory 2 back, you remain pretty conservative, taking her here to this overnight stakes. Does that mean that today's $400,000 Comely was the ultimate year-end goal all along?
Yes, it was. Definitely was. It was a great, she has a great stepping stone, and she has black type now. She won a stake, and now it's stepping up to a graded stake. So it's great progression, and it's just been worked out very well, and she's doing very well.
Take a moment to describe this daughter of Street Sense from a physical standpoint, if you would.
She's a beautiful filly, very, very pretty filly with a great stride. She's, we didn't want to run her a mile and 8 second start, but the 7 furlong race did not fill the first week at Saratoga, so we opted to go a mile and 8, and it was a very impressive race the way she did it, even though we weren't quite ready to go a mile and 8. So we went a mile and then a mile and 16, and now we're back to a mile and 8. But she's got a beautiful stride. She's been a little bit problems at the gate sometimes. That's why she got beat the first time. She didn't break very well. So hopefully she's good in the gate and breaks well and things go well for us. But she's very talented.
Before we let you go, I mentioned a few moments ago her schedule exactly the same as Dance Card. Dance Card, a very fine third in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint in her last start. Talk about that effort, Karen.
Yeah, she didn't break very well. She's always been a little slow to break Dance Card. She broke just a touch slow and was quite a ways back down the backside. And then Joelle put in a big run, and we got spun a little bit wide, 5 wide, as a matter of fact, on the turn. But she did put in a huge run to only lose by a length. And it was, a little bit disappointing because she ran so well to finish third. But then when you look up and see Groupie Doll won it, she's a true champion and good connections and good people. And hopefully she runs well today, and Dance Card gets started next year in January or February.
Karen, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch, and all the best later this afternoon with Cairo Prince and Penwith and Wedding Toast, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you, Karen. Karen McLaughlin, ladies and gentlemen. All right. What a wonderful day of racing, both here in New York with a first post of 12 noon, a card at Churchill Downs with all 2-year-old races highlighted by the Kentucky Jockey Club as well as the Golden Rod. Out in California, a couple of 2-year-old stakes races on grass, but they're really disappointing. They came up with short fields. Gulfstream Park also has a couple of grass stakes races for the 2-year-olds, so a lot of good action this afternoon. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Here at the Clubhouse Racebook, our associate producer Julie Hoxie, as well as Mick Richards. Back in the control room in Schenectady, Dan Hayes directed, Dino Concinacci and Brian Dorenzo, Pat Peretta in charge of pre-production. Thanks to this morning's guests, Shug McGahee, Pat Byrne, Buff Bradley, and Karen McLaughlin. And thanks to our sponsor, Mike D'Anzaris and all the folks at Embrace the Race, the apparel for the horse racing lifestyle. Available at the Museum of Racing, at their new store at 12 Circular Street in Saratoga, and online at embracetherace.com. And with the holidays just around the corner, if you've got a racing fan on your gift list, think Embrace the Race. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, we thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the racing action from coast to coast right here at Capitol. Have a terrific upcoming week. And from all of us here at Down the Stretch, we'll see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.